Hello everyone. In this video we're going to be demonstrating how to use TrueCrypt to create an encrypted USB stick. Before we get into the technical details of how to do this, there are some important terms and concepts we need to learn. So let's take a look quickly at our learning goals or our overall goals for this lesson. So our learning goals, or basically what we hope to accomplish by the end of this video, are as follows. The first one is you'll understand why we're going to be doing this process, or why we need to encrypt portable USB drives to secure our information. We're also going to be discussing some of the processes and terminology generally related to encryption in general. And we're also going to be discussing how to do this with free open source tools rather than commercially available products that would cost a lot of money. So we're going to do this entirely free of charge. So let's dive right into the content here, and let's talk about why we might want to do this in our classrooms or in our daily lives. So USB sticks are fantastic. They're great to use and really easy and a very convenient way to store information. They're very low cost, but because they're so small, they're easy to lose or easy to drop or leave behind, especially if you're moving back and forth between classrooms all the time. And that can be a really bad thing, especially for teachers, because we commonly have a lot of personal information in our possession. We have student grades, email addresses, all kinds of critical student information that if it fell into the wrong hands could potentially be very damaging. There are even laws like the Canadian Privacy Act or PIPEDA that could have serious legal ramifications for us as teachers if our student data falls into the wrong hands. So we need to learn how to effectively protect this information and make sure that if we do leave our USB stick behind, that the information on is still secure. It can't be accessed by any unscrupulous individuals. So some background information on what encryption is and what it's all about. A textbook definition of encryption is that it's a mathematical process for obscuring information so that it can only be read by the intended or authorized parties. And basically what this means is it's like passing secret notes in school or messages that are encoded. It's the same process but on a digital level. We're encoding or encrypting the information so that if it were to fall into the wrong hands, nobody can read it. And in this process, what we're doing is we're actually locking the USB stick with a password. So that's what we want to do. We want to create a USB stick so that if it were lost, you would need a password to get to the information, and the information that is stored on it is encrypted so that nobody can read it. And this really won't help you much if you lost your flash drive. You won't be able to get those files back. You're still kind of out of luck there. But it's an insurance policy. In case you do lose your flash drive, you can rest easy knowing that the information on it is still secure and it can't just be read by anybody as with a normal USB stick. So what we'll need to accomplish this process is an empty, brand new USB flash drive. And I want to stress the empty part of this, because part of this process is going through and actually reformatting the way the USB key works. Any information that's stored on it will be erased and gone. So you want to start with an empty one. Kind of a best bet here would be to go to Walmart and get a brand new one, just so you're sure you're not going to lose any of your data. And we're also going to need the TrueCrypt software, which is freely available for anyone to download from TrueCrypt.org. It's an open source product that works on Mac and Windows. Actually, the screens look exactly alike whether you're using a Mac or you're using Windows. So it's a really good software. There are commercial alternatives to this, and one of those products would be Semantic Encryption Desktop. But this is pretty good and it's free, so that's what we'll be using. So let's get started with our process. I've already plugged in my USB stick here, and I'm just going to go to my computer to show that. There it is right there, removable disk drive E, and you can see it there. It's completely blank, so that's good to go. And what I'm going to do is just go to Start and All Programs. I've already installed TrueCrypt for myself. That's something you'll want to do before getting started. But I'm just going to click on this TrueCrypt icon here. Okay, so this is what the screen looks like when it first starts. We're all set to go, and as I mentioned, this looks exactly the same on a PC as it does on a Macintosh. So the first thing we need to do is get our USB stick ready to be able to handle this new encryption. So we want to click the Create Volume button, and we're prompted with this wizard that's actually going to guide us through the process. We have several options here. The first one is to create an encrypted file container. Now this would be if you wanted to just have like a secure zone on your own hard drive for your encrypted files. The next option down here is encrypt the system partition or the entire system drive. This would make your entire hard drive, including all your windows and all your settings, encrypted, and it would actually take a really, really long time to complete. So we don't want to do that either, because the only thing we care about at this point is the data on our USB stick. So that's why we're going to click this middle option here, encrypt a non-system partition or drive. So I'm going to select that and click Next. Two options, standard or hidden. Hidden is really good if you're ultra secure or really, really paranoid, but standard works for most people. So we'll just click standard and click Next. This screen is actually asking us which drive we actually want to use for this encryption. Now if I click select device here, you'll note that it comes up with a couple of different options. We want to make absolutely sure that what we are clicking matches the drive that's on our USB key in my computer. So in this case it's drive E, and we want to make sure that's matched here, because if we click drive C, again we're going to encrypt our entire hard drive. It will take hours and hours and hours to do, and it would be really, really difficult to reverse the process. So we want to make sure that this is in fact the letter or the drive letter that's assigned to our USB stick. The other thing I want to mention here is that you can ignore any of these options that have no drive letter beside them and just click on the one with the appropriate drive letter. So I'm going to select drive E here and click OK. If you've made a mistake, it's really easy. You just click select device again and you can go back and highlight your correct result. So I'm going to select E and click OK. And then we're going to click Next. Okay, create an encrypted volume and mount it. That's what we want to do. So we'll just leave that at the default and click Next. This is where it's asking you, or the program is asking you, which encryption algorithm you want to use. And this is the actual mathematical algorithm or mathematical process behind how our information is going to get secured. And you can read a little blurb about each of these different algorithms in this section here. There's a lot of debate among computer scientists as far as which ones are better, but in this case I don't think there's going to be any advantage to using one over another, so let's just leave it at the default and click Next. How big the drive is, this will all be set for you by default because we're going to be using the entire drive in this instance, so we can just click Next. And this is where we get to the password part. Now, TrueCrypt will tell you that you should use a very good password, that it should be more than 20 characters long. That's a little bit ridiculous. I don't know anybody who can remember those details. So I'm just going to use a standard good password, but it is important that the password actually be a decent one. So you should probably use a capital letter, a number, or a couple of special characters in there. So I'm going to use my password, and I'm just going to call it my password 1. Okay, so I've got a couple of capital letters and a number in there, and it's more than 8 characters long, so that's good. And I'm going to click Next. Now, TrueCrypt is going to, again, remind me that short passwords are easier to crack, and you should use something more than 20, but we're just going to click Yes, and that's fine. This part of the process is really very interesting because if you can see this random pool of data here that changes as I move my mouse. I stop moving the mouse there so you could see it slows down a little bit and gets faster as I start moving my mouse around. What this is actually incorporating some random information into the math that it's doing to try and secure your data. That really significantly increases the strength of the security that's going into your device. And it's actually kind of cool to watch too. So what we'll do is we'll just move my mouse around the screen a little bit, and when we're ready we'll click the Format button. It's going to remind us again here that all the data on the drive will be erased. This is another good chance to go into my computer and just make sure it's completely blank. Yep, it's fine, we're good to go, because anything after this point will be erased on that drive. So we'll click yes, and it's going to go through the process. Now this process is going to take a little bit of time depending on how big the drive is that you're trying to use. And the reason for that is it has to go through every sector on the drive, or every little bit of information, every little bit of programming on this drive, and rewrite it to be more secure. So it actually has to go through the drive one by one and get this information. So this is going to take about 15 minutes to go through, and that time will increase depending on how big your drive is. So what I'm going to do is pause the recording, and we're going to come back and when this gets a little bit closer to being finished. Okay, so once the process completes, as soon as that progress bar there gets to 100%, you'll be able to see this information window pop up. And what this is telling you is that you can no longer use the USB stick as drive letter E in my computer. Instead, you have to do another process, which is what prompts you for the password, to be able to get to your USB stick. And I'll just show you exactly what I mean. If I go to my computer, you see removable disk drive E is still connected, but there's nothing there as far as, if I look at drive letter C here, you can see this progress bar is here. It tells me how much free space is left. All that basically means it's a usable drive, where drive letter E has absolutely nothing like that showing on there. So to illustrate the process a little bit more, I'll just show you what happens if you try and copy something to it. It gives you this information about formatting the disk. And this is because as soon as this process runs and TrueCrypt goes through, it reformats the drive and makes it in a secure setting. So that's not going to work exactly the same way as it used to. We still have to be asked for our password and enter that before we can use the drive. So I'm just going to click OK, and I'll show you how to deal with that in just 1 second. So click OK, and it says the TrueCrypt volume has been successfully created, so that's good. We click OK, and we can just click Exit here. Now in the main TrueCrypt window, you can see how it has all these other extra drive letters here. These are all the drive letters that your computer isn't currently using. Okay, so if I pick on one of the ones that's free here, or click on that, and if I want to be able to actually go ahead and use my secure drive now, I have to pick one of these free drive letters first, and then go back down here where it says Select Device, and again click drive letter E. Okay, click OK, and I want to click Auto Mount Devices. It's going to ask me for my password, and I click OK, and after a moment it will say that it's mounted. Okay, so this is the process that you have to use every time you want to use your USB stick. And you can see here now that I picked drive letter I in TrueCrypt. There's drive I there, and now on my computer I have a new drive, the I drive, which is actually my secure storage. And I can drag my presentation, my file, into that drive. There it is there, and now it's encrypted. So if I were to pull this USB stick out of my computer and I were to lose it, all of the information in there would be encrypted or hidden from the user. They wouldn't be able to see anything. And although it is a bit of a pain to go into here and to have to mount this every single time you want to use it, it's really, really good, because I'll just pull my USB stick out here for 1 second. And when I plug this USB stick back in here, and I try to double click on it, it's actually going to give me a little bit of an error that says the drive is not formatted, and do I want to format it? So right off the bat, that's another layer of protection, because anybody using this drive who's picked it up and wants to use it would have to click Format Disk before they were able to store any files on it. So that would actually erase your whole drive and all the encrypted contents. So if it gets lost, they're going to actually have to erase it for you before they can do anything with the drive. And then again, if you want to use it, all you have to do now. And the cool thing about TrueCrypt is it saves the settings. All you have to do is pick your drive letter, click Mount, and type your password. So just to recap what we have learned, we've learned why we need to start using encryption on our devices, because we leave a lot of sensitive information around. We've learned the process to do this using these freely available tools like TrueCrypt, and we've learned how to mount the drive after we've created our traveling disk. So that's really all there is to it. And it's a really great process that you can easily use in your daily routine. It might seem like a little bit of a drag to remount it every time you use it, but eventually it will become second nature.